What are we calling this? Coffee complaints? Complaints and coffee?
Honestly, I kind of like Complacent Coffee Chats.
Complacent coffee chats.
All right. Welcome to Complacent Coffee Chats. Name TBD.
Or maybe it'll just stick and we'll keep it.
Yeah. It's basically a way for me to unwind about my coffee experience, divulge all the behind the scenes stuff to my wife, who gets to sit at the computer most of her life.
Well, and generally, I'm the one teaching Kelby things, so this gives him a chance to teach me about something.
So, all of last week and last weekend prior, whatever, basically is all of the aftermath of our coffee festival, which I'm sure you've heard plenty of that on social media by now. But it was our first big event as a public entity, and it took some time to. Oh wait, espresso machine turning off.
Makes good espresso though.
Anyways, all last week was me digesting the coffee festival and just really looking back at some of the highlights, some of the parts that I thought could be improved, not only from us as a vendor, but also as the event. I have a small history of working events for a large hotel chain, and so that has skewed my vision on what events are supposed to look like. However, I've been out of the workforce for nearly 10 years, so what do I know?
That's crazy.
I know, because our oldest daughter, Alice, is almost 9 this year, and I quit working when we found out Amy was pregnant with Alice. So that's really close to basically 9.5 years.
Time flies.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Mm-hmm. What a dream to be out of the workforce for it. No, I'm just kidding.
Honestly, I got no complaints, right? I spent most of my life playing with babies.
You continue to do that. Now coffee.
Yeah,
babies who like coffee.
Yeah, babies who like coffee.
Mm-hmm.
So I brewed our Honduras 18 Rabbits. It's now an Americano, and I'm actually very happy with the flavor of the espresso despite the catastrophe of the espresso.
Yeah, it's amazing because it tastes delicious, even though the espresso machine decided to
explode.
And
you?
Anyway, I have our decaf Colombian, which is a very satisfying decaf and won't give me heartburn this late at night.
Fantastic.
I'm old now.
All right. Coffee festival. Before we got to go, we had to prepare.
Yes.
So I was a ball of anxiety, and I didn't know what to do with myself. What did you do to prepare for the coffee fest?
Let's see. I didn't have the same anxiety you had because we can't both be anxious balls of putty or something, whatever. Which is kind of interesting because normally those roles are reversed. I'm a much more stressed out person. And type A, anxious all the time. But I think, I don't know, we were kind of reflecting on this earlier, but since I have run pretty big events at work, I wasn't as worried about running or being a part of a big event because I've been on the logistics side for a lot of things there. And granted, IT is a little different than a coffee festival, but it's same old coordinating people and making sure that things are set up and prepared for and that kind of stuff. And anyway, well, and you have such a good feel about, running the markets and stuff now because you've been at so many farmers markets that I felt like that part was kind of solid, right? I wasn't worried about that part. So it was really just making sure we had kind of the right, accessories, I guess. So it was the paper products where we had coupons that we gave out, and so we had to make those up ahead of time, and we wanted to make sure we had the tasty notes all easy to communicate with others, partly because you have that events background, and so you have this very particular way that you want to showcase our products, which is awesome because it does help with that communication, right? And then also because we had people helping us, I think you were also really worried about that. Not because you had any doubt in those people, but it's just a new experience, right? You've never trained people to be selling coffee for you with the coffee that you've developed and stuff. And so that was a little bit of a wild card there.
Yeah. Not just that, but also in such short notice. Really, because we basically asked for help, what, 2 weeks? 2 weeks before?
Yeah, I think it was about a month before for some of it. So it's interesting because, Kelby always does the markets and everything by himself. We hadn't necessarily considered having help for this event until you went to that first kind of info session, and then they were talking about how most people have 4 to 6 people in the booth, and you're expected to serve like 1,500 samples of coffee, and they're so that you see those numbers, and it's like, oh, that's very different than a farmer's market that you'll maybe interact with 50 people tops.
Well, actually, between yesterday's market, I gave out probably close to 100 coupons, which every one of those coupons yesterday was someone who did not buy coffee but who followed us on Instagram. I say 100, that's not right. I think 52 yesterday and close to 12 today. But I think I interacted with about 100 people total yesterday, is what I was thinking.
Okay, yeah. So in comparison, we did kind of rough numbers on the coffee festival. And I think we interacted with probably about 600 people giving out samples and different things.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, volume-wise, obviously that's sixfold, right?
Right.
A normal market. Well, and yesterday's market was one of your busier ones because that's Study Spot is always pretty busy.
Yeah, one of the busiest in a long while. Especially because when Texas gets cold, we don't know what to do with ourselves. So, like, December and January, they were awful. I had so little to do. I still have coffee left over from the end of December because we had so few markets, which always makes my heart break because it's very old coffee from our perspective, although that's still relatively within the reasonable drinkability of a coffee.
Yeah. Most of that you've pulled, right? We're just drinking that?
No, I have one Be Happy left that's still from 1231.
One Be Happy.
One Be Happy. All the rest of them are between the end of January and early February, which is a lot more reasonable for us. But even still, when I'm doing my farmers markets, I'll roast coffee the Tuesday prior. So the oldest coffee I'm usually carrying on hand is between 1 and 2 weeks old, because if nothing sells the previous week, it usually comes with me next week and then eventually gets sold. But it's very rare that I have coffee older than 2 weeks old.
Yeah.
So because of all the shutdowns and the cold and people not wanting to do stuff, like, we just had several weeks where nothing was moving, and our online sales are just a small percentage of our total sales, our total revenue. So
yeah, well, and it also makes sense that, I don't know, it seems like people want like heartier, warm things when it's cold, and so I feel like they've been tending towards more of the darker roast recently.
Yeah,
I wonder if that's tied to the weather.
I don't know. It always surprises me what sells when it's selling. So, you always expect your standards to be a guarantee, but there have been weeks where I have sold 0 bee's knees and I've sold nothing but our weird, obscure one-off, like the Backstage Buzz, or like the Texas Pecan, or although that one in particular never really did. But like every now and again, like Be Happy will just be stupid popular when that one doesn't move sometimes for months on end.
Yeah, so I'll have to do a trend analysis on that when we have a full year in and see like what the trends are based on, like, and I'll overlay it with the weather.
Yeah.
I have an IT data and analytics background, so I like data and numbers. Mm-hmm.
So to kind of circle back, her prep was obviously background stuff. When she was talking about the papered goods, like in our booth on every station. So we had a POS for our merchandise. We had the samples. We had behind us was the brewing station. Every station had a little piece of paper with basic instructions for the samples. Like, it was like, greet the person, say yellow band, say be friendly, hand out one coupon, hand out one wristband, right? Super simple.
Oh yeah, because we had little
giveaways for the VIP.
Yeah, that was fun. My dad did that.
Yeah.
And that was such a good idea.
So thanks, Ed, for that. That was fantastic.
And then he got little antenna for
our little headbands,
which was fun because his wife was walking around, and sometimes she would go exploring to just see what else was out there when it was slower. And so they'd see her with the bee antennas, and then people would come find us and be like, "Oh, I found the bee people," which was so fun. Oh my gosh. Well, and the number of people who were excited to talk about bees was cool.
Yes.
I wasn't necessarily expecting that. But I don't know. It's always fun to like talk to people who care about the same things you care about, right?
Yeah.
And so that's a cool, instant bond kind of thing. And so I had a lot of fun talking to a lot of people about, interesting bee facts, which I think that was probably the most surprising thing to me, is that I really enjoyed teaching people, and like those little, couple minute interactions sometimes, or even 30 seconds. And it's like, oh yeah, and, caffeine is in the pollen from the coffee plants. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah. Like, it's just those little tiny moments of, just those interactions, and watching people just light up and think it's cool with you. So I was surprised by that.
Yeah. Yeah. Easily my favorite portion, my favorite part of doing markets in general is the personal interaction. There have been a couple moments, not just at the coffee festival, but at farmers markets when I'm by myself, where I'm engaged in a conversation with an individual or maybe like a couple, and I can see right behind them there's a handful of people who want to come up to the booth, but they don't know how because we're engaged. And there's always a tiny thought in the back of my head where I'm like wanting to invite them over, but at the same time, whoever's in front of me is the most important person at that time.
Yeah.
And if they're really that interested, they'll come back, right? And
that's true.
I really try to make a point to have the person in front of me be the most important person at that moment.
You're being present.
I'm being present. Yes.
But so, whenever we get new shirts,
yeah, be present.
Be present.
That's a good one.
And then with like really sleepy, be holding a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Be present will help.
Or have one that says "be quiet."
Yeah.
So, all that background stuff, our tasting note flyers, they were laminated. We had 6 of them in total, and they were very beautiful because they were vibrant. They were easily readable for the tasting notes for what we were sampling, because they had pictures, they had words, and everything was in a big font. The back was all of the available roasts for purchase. Those ones are a little bit harder to read, but those ones weren't as important because that wasn't what we were trying to get across, right? That was just in case you had time to. And there was plenty of times we had a line long enough where people were actually browsing and looking through our stuff, and we made quite a number of sales, a lot more merchandise sales than normal.
I was so really excited about that because we have really cool mugs, but they currently still have Georgia on them, and so we sold out of all but one color, and I think we have 2 mugs left for the Georgia branded. And so I just placed an order with Deneen for Texas ones, and I was so excited because they're so pretty. Anyway, Deneen Pottery is so cool. Like, we're not affiliated aside from the fact that we buy from them.
Yeah, they don't sponsor us in any way. We're just customers, but we're big fans. And Deneen is a very popular mug.
Yeah, they've got. I mean, it's beautiful, handmade, United States like produced, and all of that, and they're durable. Like, I love how durable they are, because it's cool when you have something pretty, but it's even cooler when it's functional.
Yes.
And so, like, dishwasher safe, microwave safe, kid proof. I mean, almost. Don't quote me on that one, but like,
I mean, they're kid friendly, right?
Yeah.
They're heavy enough where they've been knocked pretty hard on counters and they're still alive. I mean, the ones that we have are from the first batch, and they still look brand new. So way back in 2020. So
they hold up
almost,
really well.
Well, we're going on 6 years now.
Yeah.
Because when did Lee and Morgan? It was what?
I
April?
think their first order from Deneen was actually 2021, because I've seen the order invoices.
Yeah, but they opened Yellow Band
in 2020. Yeah.
And I think it was April of 2020.
Okay, I believe you. I don't know exactly. I was thinking June, but that might have been when we did it. So maybe I was thinking.
We were technically at the end of May here in 2024.
2025.
Yeah, 2025. Yeah. We bought the company in 24.
Yeah, but started up at the
end of May. Of 2025.
Yeah, but
so our Yellow Band birthday is still a couple months off.
Yes,
but Yellow Band as a whole is obviously pre-existing, if you haven't caught on by now.
Yes. Well, and I think I got one of the mugs from Morgan and Lee for doing some design work initially for maybe it was because I was doing
I think you did because you did all the branding.
Yeah, because we had, so initially when Morgan and Lee started the company, they had me draw Beanard, so our little bee, and do the Yellow Band logo. And that's more of a like a banner
Mhm.
style. And when we were doing it for the mugs and they knew they wanted to order it, we changed from the banner to a little hexagon emblem so that it fits really nicely on the mug. So I think that's when I did that whole design for them, is for the mug specifically, which was a cool transition. So now we have both, but I'm partial to that little emblem we made because I just think it's so cute.
Yeah.
And I guess the one on your shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one on the t-shirts. It's also on our mugs, and then typically if I'm printing up stickers, they're on that sticker for our reorder, everything. So yeah, we're getting our use out of it, which is nice. We're also getting our use out of those mugs, which is nice.
Yeah. Well, and it's also really nice since I did all the design work. When I need to make changes, I have all the original files because it's all mine.
That is nice.
It's been convenient.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay, coffee festival.
Well, that was her prep. Was basically just the papered goods, the one really helping me understand what the cost is going to be for the brewed coffee, because I'm very bad at math. Like I barely graduated high school, and I mean barely is a generous way to say it. And then I went to college for like a semester, and I went for welding, which I used zero math, even though welders are known to do math because they build things, but not in the semester I took. So
no math was done.
no math had been done for many a year.
Yeah.
So whenever I'm trying to, a lot of my anxiety was I didn't want to overcompensate for what my vision of busy is, because I have done events for tens of thousands of people before. And so I have that perspective in my mind of what a big event is. And even though they gave us a hard number of 5,000 people, like I still was feeling anxious because I've never prepared food for that. I've only done, table chair setup, more of what the coffee festival backstage stuff was, like the tents and the chairs. I'm more used to that kind of stuff. So in my head, I was like, I don't even know how to like quantify 5,000 3-ounce samples before it's coffee, So she helped me a lot in that kind of planning. And then what we wanted to bring roasted, which again we kind of shot over the moon for that one, but that was kind of my fault.
Well, in that one, it was interesting because most of what we sold, aside from like maybe 2 exceptions, was the coffee we were sampling.
Right.
And so that one, I don't think either of us necessarily expected, but it makes sense like in hindsight. It's just we hadn't really thought about it. But it was a few people who knew you or had like tasted Yellow Band before were the ones who asked for other things, even though we had it all, but we didn't have it all out on the table.
Shout out Tom and Monica, because you were one of them.
Yeah. But it got pretty hot, and so we didn't want to leave the coffee out in the sun.
Yeah.
So we hid it behind the shade, shelf life and keep it fresh. And
we have black bags.
Yeah,
it's
so
never
they kinda,
good in the sun.
Yeah, absorb the heat there. So we didn't want all of that out.
Yeah, but I guess compared to other farmers markets, I guess I would have assumed more time to be able to talk to people with the merchandise side. I assumed the sampling would happen, then we kind of move over and start having the conversation. But really, the vast majority of people were just interested in sampling the coffee, and if they decided they wanted, they just bought the bag. And like it was not really much of a conversation as much as a, cool, this is great, I'll take one.
Yeah, well,
and it was that simple.
Yeah, and I was trying to think back to when, a number of years ago, we actually were consumers at a coffee festival. Well, this coffee festival, but back. Oh man, I'll have to go look at the dates. It was at least 3 or 4 years ago. It was whenever they were in
Travis Park, so it was a few years ago.
Yeah, I don't even know if Juno was born yet.
So. No, it was before Juno, so and I think we had a babysitter for her because I don't think Alice came with us.
Yeah, so but probably 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was when they were in Travis Park, and I think there was only 1 or 2 years they were in Travis Park.
Yeah,
but
for that one, because you have the sample tickets, you and your mess. You're excited to use your samples and make sure you're hitting the different, coffees that look interesting and that stuff. And so I think a lot of people were doing that. Well, and I think that's one thing where when people were seeking us out, because they put out a whole list of all the vendors and all of the coffees they have sampled, because you say it ahead of time. And so they have it in their little pamphlet that, the San Antonio Coffee Fest hands out. But because we had a light roast on there, it seemed like a lot of people were seeking us out for that light roast. So I'm guessing there weren't as many coffee vendors with light roast being sampled.
Either that or their descriptors did not include roast profile, which is completely possible that they just did like a tasting.
Yeah, but I thought that was pretty cool. Well, and also it's interesting the people who like light roast, it tends to be people who um
Are more picky about coffee.
yeah, are more picky about coffee.
Yeah.
They are more interested in the light roast.
That's where you
But
get the nuances.
or yeah, depending on how you take your coffee or whatever. Because if you're making like a cappuccino or something, then a lot of times you want that darker roast to kind of keep its body throughout.
Yeah, or something definitely with more body, not necessarily darker, but more body, which can be darker, not always. Like our
Yeah.
Digger Bee is a medium roast, but it's got a lot of body
Yeah,
because
it
that's how the
does.
Bolivian bean reacts to heat.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too big for the space. I made them for myself. So, all that being said, once the coffee festival, or I guess the day before, the Friday before the coffee festival came, and I had everything packed in the car, and we got there, and I started setting up the physical space. That's when the anxiety went away because that's where my brain can relax because I can physically see the layout and I can understand. So I had three concerns going in: is the booth was going to be too small because we were going to have 6 people, that no one was going to have fun because they were either going to be too busy or too not busy to enjoy themselves. And then 3, we weren't going to we either weren't going to have enough of something or we were going to have way too much of something, which was going to wreck things, right? So as ambiguous as that is, that's where my little squirrel brain goes to every little rabbit hole and avenue possible. So, like, as I was setting up the space, and it's not like it's an unfamiliar tent. We use my sister's tent, but it's 10 by 10, right? It's a standard space for farmers markets. The same 6-foot tables I use for my farmers markets, the same crafts I use for farmers markets. So all of it should have been very familiar, but my brain just wouldn't let it go until I set it up. Once it was up, and I had everything mentally in place and I had them physically in the space where they should go, I took a deep breath and I was like, cool, this is going to work. But the best part of the whole event, which really made our weekend, was initially we were actually behind a giant tree and a light pole.
Yeah, it was like, I will, and the event coordinator apologized. He said when they had done the mapping, the trees weren't on the map that they used. But yeah, it was, I mean, it was kind of one of the worst spots I saw. But it was, yep, this tree and a light pole, and then our tent was right behind it, and so you would have had to go through 2 barriers to get to coffee, which I think probably would have been
It would have been
a
difficult.
painful experience for most involved.
And that Friday, all the background stuff was still being set up. So they're still running the wires for the electrical that was going to go to every booth. And so I sat down with Nick, who is the site manager, and I can't speak this guy's praises enough because he was just such a kind dude. He and his crew were really sympathetic towards us and said, hey, once we're all set up, if there's anything we can do, we're going to help you out, right? So we just kind of sat, we looked at it together. We're like, oh, we should be able to push it back. There should be enough space. I mean, literally from the front of the table to this tree was enough for one physical body to be of a very fit individual. So like it was going to be rough and I was just mentally preparing for that. But now that I saw it and I knew it was going to happen, I was like, okay, this is just what we're going to have to deal with. And so I left all my stuff there. I went home that night feeling a little bit better. Honestly, the tree didn't bother me as much as I feel like it should have because I still had a plan in place. So morning
Yeah,
of,
it probably bothered me a lot more because I was like, you gotta be kidding me.
yeah. But morning of, we go up there and we get a sweet parking spot in the parking lot that ended up not being $1 million, which was fantastic.
Yeah, because downtown parking.
Downtown parking is awful, but this new parking spot at Hemisphere Park, we got a great deal that day. I don't know if it was because it was an event. I don't know what it was. I won't argue. But we were basically parked right behind our booth. So I had eyes on my car the entire time. And load in took minutes with everything. And load out took minutes with everything.
Yeah,
but we get there. And the people who were to the left of us just never showed up. So I call Nick. Nick and his crew come up. We move everything over one booth, and we are completely open to the public. That tree was not an issue, and it was wonderful.
You didn't even know a booth was missing because it looked like you had just left a gap for the tree because there shouldn't have been a booth there.
So whoever C32 was, I'm so sorry you missed it, but thank you for not showing up.
No kidding.
Because it put us in a bind. But that relieved everything.
Oh,
And
yeah,
then
that was great. Yeah.
yeah, and so for Saturday morning, our friends our family starts trickling in to start volunteering. By this point, the coffee pot is hot, or the brewer is hot. We're brewing coffee. There's coffee in the air. Everybody's starting to wake up. I finally have a cup of coffee. I'm awful when I don't have coffee. So I could just breathe this sigh of relief. Seeing everybody in there, everybody was in a good mood. We did a quick run through. Oh, part of the preparation, like the 2 weeks before, is I had each set of couples come over for a coffee tasting to go over the 3 samples.
Yeah.
Just that way they knew what they were selling, right? Even if we made no profit from the samples, you are still selling the thing, right? You're still talking about the product and still trying to entice people to try it.
Yeah, I think
that
that
way-
was a lot of fun too. Like it was fun to see, like especially my dad and Jennifer, like really get excited about the coffee with
Yeah.
us, and so that was so fun.
And it makes me feel good
Yeah.
to have people be excited about my coffee
Mhm.
with no obligation. Like, yes, they're family, but I mean, your dad is not scared to tell me if it's bad, which is, it's peaceful to know that. So when he says it's good, it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
And Jennifer, we changed her perspective on coffee that she likes. Normally she likes a dark roast, but we gave her the bespoke, and now she's really curious about the bespoke. And
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
been fun.
my sister and her partner Haley, they came over. They were partly distracted by Juno, but who's not distracted by Juno, right? We had some coffee together. We went through some of the samples, and they got more excited, which was good. So day of, everybody's excited. Everybody knows what we're doing, and then next thing you know, people are trickling in, and then we blink, and then we're running.
Yeah.
We're from 8 o'clock until about 2 o'clock. We were moving, and everything moved smoothly. The only negative thing was one of my big Cody jugs, which are 64 ounces, went missing. I'm assuming someone walked off with it overnight. I'm going to assume it was by mistake, but it is what it is. So my plan was to have one 64-ounce jug per roast we had. So that way we'd brew in the 64 ounce and just go throw it in the carafe and just have this continuous back and forth of the Cody jugs, not the carafe. So the table never has to be empty. Well, because we ended up being one short, one carafe was always missing from the table. And every now and again, the timing would be just right where we didn't have a carafe on the table and someone wanted that specific coffee. So it's like, okay, give me 4 minutes and you'll have it, right? But
a couple of those sample cups that just stuck under the little
yeah, you just kind of sneak what you could. Yeah.
It was fun. And most people, either if they didn't want to wait, they would pick another option that was on, because I know a lot of the booths were probably only sampling 2. I remember that from when we were
Oh, interesting.
customers, is that
Well, it's funny because we had the option to go up to 4. So we could have had up to 4 coffees if we wanted to.
Well, and we were very much like, okay, I know exactly what, anyway,
Yeah.
but it worked out really well for us. And it's like option for everybody, and they were interesting. But yeah, so that, and then the cups, like not having disposable cups.
I don't know what was up with the cups. Coffee Festival, Matt, I don't know who needs to have the conversation with who, but like there's so much ups and down with the cups. Like we were told
disposable cups at each vendor would be great. I mean, or we could have brought our own, but like.
Well, what we were told on the roaster side is do not bring cups, do not bring cream and sugar. We are providing all that. You're only allowed to give a ticketed sample to someone with the green ceramic cup from this year, the old ceramic cup from last year, which was a tiny little white mug, or the disposable cups that they get at the door. That's what our instructions were. So they were all supposed to be San Antonio Coffee Festival labeled. However, there was quite a number of people walking around with tickets and no cup.
And then the vendors didn't get cups. Like, we didn't get cups to sample with. And so, like, they gave us 1 cup for the booth, but we had 6 people in our booth. So it was like, okay, well, you can share your cup with all 6 people. I mean, we were all family, but still.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't necessarily officially told, but like, to our own discretion as roasters, when there's crew running around, if we want to offer them samples, like we were able to do that with our own freedom, right? Because they were working the event, so they were paying their way in a sense. but I didn't realize that they weren't going to have cups either, and we were told not to bring cups. So every now and again, there was just this awkward moment where someone wanted coffee and we didn't know how to provide it to them.
Yeah, like the people running the electricity and stuff like that,
Yeah.
or like providing the water, and yeah, all that. It's like,
Yeah.
I would give it to you. I filled somebody's like reusable water bottle up a little bit
Yeah.
with coffee.
Nalgene, yeah.
Because that's what they had. But yeah, so anyway, we'll bring at least one of our
Yeah.
small sleeves of cups next
Yeah.
year.
And we have plenty of sample cups, like as Yellow Band. We have boxes of them. So I was a little disappointed that that's how that ended up working out, because even from the customer side, people who have been coming to the San Antonio Festival for years always say that it's always a jumble of what's going on with the cups. Like they never know what to do about the cups. And so it seems like that's a consistent problem. So whatever's going on with the cups, clarifying realities would be nice. Or just tell the roasters, bring some, don't expect to use them. So that way we at least have them on hand. And I understand you want to pay, or you want the customer to use what's being paid for. So if they're paying for a cup, they're paying for a set number of tickets. I understand that that's why you want to do that, instead of lessening the value of the ticket by having cups available. Like I get that. I completely understand all that. However, if you're not going to provide the actual quantity that's promised, then you're lessening the value of the ticket by misinformation, even if it's by accident, right?
Yeah,
I doubt it was intentional in any way, because logistics are hard, right? You never know what's going to happen. So,
well, and it's funny because at the end, they came up with cups, and so we got 2 of the cups from this year, like the ceramic ones, which it's like, oh, the cups. Here's the cups. The last hour of the event.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, so like I said, I have no idea how they decided to distribute all of that. I don't know if you got it ahead of time. I don't know if you got it at the gate. I don't really remember how we did it when we did it so many years ago.
I don't know.
I think we checked in and got tickets.
Yeah, I don't think we paid for the VIP.
No.
One.
Are you kidding me? That'd be way too much.
No, well, and I think yeah. It was not as an expensive ticket as some of the other things that San Antonio does. But yeah, I think it was just it was just disposable cups that you got with the tickets.
Yeah.
And so that's what they had at the door or whatever to get in. But it was a lot smaller when we did it too.
Yeah. This year was huge.
Yeah. Well,
and Hemisphere Park,
which is cool.
It is really cool. Like everybody is still blown away when I tell them the final count that I was given, but
yeah, well, and just the fact that people in San Antonio like coffee so much is fun to like know. It's like
the fact that it gets bigger every year is pretty impressive. Well, and the fun side for our crew is that they got to experience the event without necessarily having to pay because they were vendors, but they also had the responsibility to work. But everything worked and flowed really well. I thought very critically about who should pair it with who, and I think that paid off. So Ed and Haley did a wonderful job at keeping the coffee brewing, at making sure we had fresh pots, making sure that we never ran out, and that everything was dosed and portioned appropriately. Amy, obviously, and my sister Megan were fantastic at giving out the samples, giving the little bit, just enough information about Yellow Band. And I have a tendency to speak for way too long, obviously. So me and Jennifer were out working the crowd and just doing stuff. But honestly, as the owner and as the person who's typically the solo farmers market vendor, I actually sat back for an hour or two total, not all at one time, to just kind of sit and witness things happen so I can learn and absorb how people are responding to the information they're given. Because I only see from my perspective to the one person, but Jennifer was able to talk to several groups of people at one time. So there was time that she had 10 or 12 people around her all listening to what she was talking about the coffee, and she had them laughing, and she wasn't selling the coffee the way I sell coffee. And there was a small part of me that was like annoyed, but it was working. So it's like, okay, take a deep breath, learn from this experience, right? What is she doing that you don't do? What are they responding to?
Yeah, well, and she's got a background of giving lectures and reaching crowds and stuff. So it makes sense that she would have been pretty good and practiced at it.
Yeah.
So it's fun to see, just different tactics that you wouldn't necessarily come up with yourself.
Right.
Well, and she had this fun way of like identifying people as the roast we were sampling, and so
Yes.
they'd come up and be like, "I'm apparently a Dr. Bumble," or like,
Yeah.
and so it was fun to, have them have that identity with the roast.
And I loved that.
Yeah,
like the
it was
first
so
couple times I
clever.
caught that, I wasn't sure if I heard it right, but then like I was like, no, they're saying I'm a Dr. Bumble, I'm a bee's knees, or I should be a bespoke, and I'm like, that made me feel so good, which was the other reminder to take a breath and witness, learn from the experience, because it's not every day that I'm going to have other people working stuff for me that I can learn from. So yeah, that was really nice. It was a lot of fun to see other people respond to the coffee on both sides, and that was great.
Yeah.
So I took a lot of notes on Jennifer's approach, because she did such a good job at getting people excited about the coffee. And a good reminder is that I don't need to give you the entire litany of things that we do at Yellow Band just to give you some coffee, right?
Yeah, she did a good job of making connections and having people like remember it and like have a positive experience tied with it, which we're kind of all about, right? Like we want it to be something that you're excited about, like we're excited about. So that was really fun to see. Well, and I think that probably lent itself to people coming back around to buy coffee.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people would sample, and I'm sure they were making their rounds and doing different samples, but then a number of them wrapped back around and bought coffee from us, even though they didn't buy it this time they were sampling it. And so it's like, wow, like we made enough of an impression that they sought us back out, because I know we were at the opposite end of one of the gates and very close to the other gate. And so if they had come in from the other gate, like the fact that they wrapped back around to our
we
side
were on the complete opposite side of food.
Unless you count the boozy ice cream, we were pretty close to that one.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently all the food and other vendors were on the complete opposite end. So that's the other thing that I'll complain about briefly, is that the entrance that everybody's used to for Hemisphere Park is on South Nueces Street.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to picture the word. Anyways, it's on Nueces Street. I'm going to commit to that hardcore. That's the entrance that most people are used to coming in on. But apparently, the Spurs had bought that entire section behind it, so that's no longer going to be available to the public, which is why they built out Hemisphere Park to the new entrance where we were at. But that's an area on Market Street that I don't think people understand can be an access point. Well, especially because they tore all that stuff up, so you can't even see the park with all the construction.
So much construction downtown.
But that's the side that people are supposed to be using as the main entrance now. And so because of that, I don't think it actually clicked with a lot of people that that was actually a main entrance, and that should be a starting point. So I think a lot of people ended up expecting to have to wrap around anyways, even though that they were coming in on that side. They assumed they were on the back side, which I guess it depends on how you want to think about it. But either way, the old side that they're trying to get people to not associate with the entrance is where all the food was. And if I'm walking into a place, the first thing I see is food, I know I'm in the right place, right?
Generally.
That's the correct direction. So.
Yeah, it's all right.
But there is a DJ, at least 2 live bands, several food trucks, and I think up to, I want to say 40 other vendors where it was prepared foods, crafty things, artisan, artists stuff. Which we never made it that far. That was just too far of a walk. It was past the bathrooms.
Lectures going on.
Oh yeah, and they had lectures going on, which that was right in front of us. That was nice.
Yeah.
I got to go see one.
Yeah.
That was fun.
From A&M.
Yeah, a guy from A&M. I don't remember his name. I didn't even catch it because the moment he started talking is when the band started playing, and it just happened to be an excitable band. So I caught like 20% of what he was saying. But essentially, the nutshell of that is that A&M is one of the leading causes for coffee research. And what we do know as an industry stems from the research A&M does. So now they're putting together a coffee certificate program where you can certify your knowledge through coffee in a litany of areas. So it's not just importing coffee or coffee agriculture. It's also like the coffee service. So like maintaining and repairing espresso machines and brewers, and like the logistics of running a coffee shop, or not quite architecture, but like the interior design specific to coffee shops.
Oh,
You know,
that's cool.
like
Yeah,
little
yeah,
things
yeah.
like that where it's like you think of the cup of coffee and that's your market, but there's so many other things that go with that that they're areas of careers. So they're trying to identify those, define them, and then make pathways for those areas too.
It's really neat.
So they're going to have this giant institute. I think the date was 2028 in College Station for this coffee stuff.
Nice.
Should be open to the public for public use as well as the certificate program. I'm really excited to hear more about that as more information comes out. So I'm going to be keeping an ear out for that. But yeah, once everything was all said and done, breakdown was super easy. We went home feeling good. I felt great actually and exhausted. So I would absolutely do it again next year.
Yeah.
I think we'll bring our own cups though and not tell anybody.
Definitely bringing in our own cups. Maybe like a floor mat to stand on.
Yeah, I got tired of standing after a while, but we didn't have a lot of time to sit until the very end. So
No, and I'm not good at sitting anyway, so.
no.
But yeah, so much fun.
Yeah.
And like a lot more fun than I expected, and yeah, it was a good time and not like easy to execute when we were there, and everybody worked really well together. No drama. Like it was good. Yeah. And I think everybody had a fun time. Like all of the people who helped us, which was half the goal. Right?
Yes, yes. So half my concern was they didn't have fun, and they did have fun, so I felt very good after that.
Yeah.
And so obviously this should not compare one-to-one to a standard farmer's market, but I've been doing farmer's market since we started, and honestly, it felt very similar, like way more similar than I expected it to. It's just busier.
Yeah.
So some of my busiest farmers markets are very similar to that level of movement,
Yeah.
just with more people at the
Mhm.
coffee festival, right? So that was surprising because I expected it to be noticeably different, but it really wasn't. You're just sitting behind a table, you're talking to a bunch of people, and you're feeling good and smiling. It is very obvious that if you're not having fun, they're not having fun. So like as long as you keep a smile on your face and you keep a good attitude, 9 times out of 10 you'll make a sale, make someone's day. But yeah, we make most of our revenue from our farmers markets that we do.
Yeah.
So getting really good and efficient at those is both good and then also kind of boring to not sugarcoat it at all.
Yeah. You're like, I've solved this problem. I know how to do it. Give you another problem to solve.
Well, now I'm at the point where I have such a routine that like it's noticeably more boring for me. And so I kind of want to try to change things up to keep it interesting. But with that also comes this commitment to bringing on more stuff with me, having a longer setup and a longer breakdown, finding out new logistics for that, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just, is it worth it? Because ultimately my end goal is to be wholesaling and online selling more than needing to go to markets. I'd also like to lean into the private sphere. So like do private tastings, private events, private cuppings, catering for our brewed coffee, like things like that where it's a little bit more personal rather than publicly centric and hopefully less volatile. And so, you know, early
not
on,
dependent on the weather.
yeah, not
Literally.
dependent on the weather, but also not dependent on people's moods. I mean, like early on when we first did a couple of markets, my first 3 or 4 markets were terrifying because I didn't have a good setup and breakdown yet. And so I was spending probably close to an hour and a half trying to figure everything out because putting up the tent and the tables took 5 minutes, but it took me an hour to figure out how to actually set the table with the coffee and what it should look like and what stuff should I have on the table and getting to know the POS because it was all brand new, right? Then it got to the point to where I got that more or less doable, repeatable. And then I started noticing that like I'd have 2 or 3 markets that were like killer. And then all of a sudden I have a market where like I see 3 people in 5 hours. And of those 3 people, not a single one of them is interested in coffee. And you know, it was a Hail Mary every single time that an individual will come and buy just enough coffee to pay for the booth, which would, I think we've only actually lost money on 1 market. So praise God for that because, you know, that would have been very discouraging in the beginning. But then it's the exact opposite where you'll have a market where it's so busy and you sell and you almost sell out or you completely sell out, make a lot of money, everything feels good. And then you have those weird twist of fates where it is a slow market. You do only see 3 people, but then you sell to all 3 people. And then you have a super busy market where you sell to nobody. Like it's just super volatile.
Yeah.
So I would like a little bit more consistency. I won't say a guarantee of money, but a little bit more consistent expectation of where the profit's going to go. And if we're doing private events, it's more fun for us, right? Because we
Makes
get to design it, we get to say what's going on, we get to show the people what we're excited about. And if it's catering, then we just go drop stuff off and we go pick it up later. And then wholesaling would be awesome. I'd love for a coffee shop to say now pouring, we're proudly pouring yellow band, right? And then people go and see our big yellow band bees everywhere on the back walls, and that'd be a lot of fun.
One day, one day.
Yeah. That's the end goal.
Yeah. All right. We've been chatting for a while. We should probably wrap it up.
How long?
I don't know.
Oh.
I just feel like it's been a while.
Well, okay. Honestly, that covers most of our points. Really, what are we looking to? What are you most excited for in our immediate future?
Ooh. The mugs I just ordered.
Okay. New mugs coming in. All right. Where do you see us in 2 years?
Hopefully in a couple shops. That would be fun.
That would be fun. Where do you see us in 5 years?
Ooh. 5 years. I feel like it would be pretty likely for us to have like a substantial catering presence in 5 years. I think we could work with some events, and like I think working with like wedding planners and stuff like that to put together packages where we could bring coffee and stuff for weddings, but then also maybe some pastries or things like that, because I love doing stuff like that. Or like, you know, if they're doing office things and stuff like that. So I think that would be a really fun space to get into and be established in.
Okay.
What about you?
I'm most excited for our Honduras and our Ethiopian coffees. Like actually getting to sit down and roast these profiles and actually nail a flavor.
Yeah, I think the Honduras is special. I'm excited about that one.
It's really good. I just haven't found that beautiful balance yet. Like the second batch was a little bit deeper, but like I know that there's something in there that I'm missing that I just have yet to go. And I haven't sat with the new Ethiopian at all because we haven't gone through our old one yet. So it's like I want to sit down and just mess with those roasts.
Yeah.
But the problem is it's 3 pounds of coffee every single time. So what am I doing with all the extra coffee? I can't drink 9 pounds of coffee.
Challenge accepted.
So that's my immediate excitement. What I'd like to be doing by the end of the year is supplying coffee to either one more vendor, so one coffee cart, one coffee shop, or another pop-up vendor consistently, or have a system in place to have private tastings where people come see us for a private tasting that we can charge tickets for, or I guess admission for. I don't know what the right word is for that. Yeah. That's what I'd like for this year. In 2 years, I'd like to have our name known well enough to be trusted that if people invest in us that they don't like wince when their card goes through. That would be nice.
I know. Premium coffee is premium coffee, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's specialty coffee and it comes with that ticket price.
Yeah.
It's worth it. I mean, for all the good that
you
do for all of this stuff, right? Like, I love where that money goes back to, right? I love that it goes back to the farms. I love that we know so much about the farms that we source from. Yeah, like all of it, right? That it's high quality.
Now that dollar goes even further with the leaf ledger. So now that we're planting trees, well, we aren't planting trees. Leaf ledger will be planting trees for the bags of coffee we're selling. So your dollar goes even further by reforesting the Amazon, which that's an exciting thing.
Yeah, like all of it. It just
yeah. And so the 5-year goal in my head is I have a large roasting space where we have, I'd much rather have one origin per one roast. So right now we have 9 offerings. It'd be nice to have 9 origins instead of 9 varieties of the same 3, right? So a large enough facility to accommodate that kind of roasting, and then 1 or 2 roasters doing most of the work, and then behind that a retail space where we do all the pretty social media stuff, where we do a lot of the live tastings, the cuppings, and events, and even have a actual retail store to come and buy bagged coffee. I don't know if we can do that in the area that we're in because it's not necessarily an easy, accessible, public-facing place, but 5 years is a long time, so maybe we can do something close to home. Yeah.
Maybe so.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's what I'm thinking.
All right.
Oh, one more section.
Okay.
Technology frustrations. How much technology pisses me off at times. I have so many difficulties with QR codes, specifically our Instagram one, because it seems like 20% of the time people who scan the Instagram QR code don't go to Instagram or they don't go to our specific page. I don't know what's up with that. Every now and again, my card reader will just stop talking to my iPad, and then I look like an idiot for 5 minutes while someone just wants to pay for their coffee. Like, all the selling is done. Now they're just getting impatient. So I might lose it because the stupid card reader doesn't want to read cards. And then lastly, it is amazing how long you can have someone do something stupid for you if they think like the value is worth it.
Like what?
Well, someone wasn't necessarily committed to buying our coffee yesterday, but they were willing to listen to the handful of additional speeches for Leaf Ledger, what a bee friendly farm is. And then they were also willing to fumble through the Instagram stuff, look at different Facebook pages, all for the sake of supporting us in a way to get a 10% coupon for a future purchase, not even the purchase they were going to make currently. But like that was a good 5-minute interaction, and they thought that 10% off was worth it, which I loved because I got a huge kick out of it. But it just was amazing how long someone was willing to suffer through something for a 10% off coupon.
Maybe they just really enjoyed talking to you. You're pretty funny, and
I definitely am funny
entertaining.
looking, but yeah.
Something like that.
So
I
there's a
talked to you for a
small,
while,
yeah,
often without getting paid or 10% off. I mean,
yeah, yeah. So it's interesting that I'm willing to do something ridiculous for something I feel is valuable.
yeah.
Yeah, but I'm assuming it's a bell curve. I think after a
Yeah.
while it dips back down.
Well,
But
and it's good to know what people find valuable, right? It's
yeah,
a good gauge.
yeah. Well, I think that wraps up basically all the little notes that I had. We'll see how long this ends up being towards the end of it. Hopefully minimal editing.
Yeah. Good luck.
Thanks. So this has been some variant of
Complacent coffee chats.
couch coffee chats, captivating coffee chats,
We're definitely
complacent
not captivating. So complacent.
coffee
it's
chats,
complacent.
or coffee and complaints, or complaints and coffee. If you have an opinion on any of those names, leave it down in the comments below, and then I will see you on a shorter somewhere else on Instagram. Goodbye.